Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So before I get into today's video, I'd like to just apologize for the lack of content lately. There's a story behind that though. I ordered a small microphone and it was supposed to come about 5 days ago, but they messed up my address. So I was going to wait until it got here. It's actually supposed to arrive today, but I wanted to get back to my more regular schedule of video making, so I'm going to go ahead and do that today. But the plan today, as you can see, I have a lot of steel cut here. It's just 1/2 inch round stock. The plan today is that I'm going to make a rack for my tongs, because lately I've been making a lot of tongs, which I'm actually going to show you guys how to do in another video, show you my process and everything. But anyway, I need a place to store them. I don't have a good place to store them. They're just laying all over the floor right now, and it's not very neat and tidy. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to make essentially a box out of this steel. It's just going to be, you know, a skeletal frame. And then I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to actually hang the tongs. So once I have that skeletal box made, I'm going to go ahead and weld a bar like this just through the middle of it, so that I can then hang my tongs on it like this. And then they'll be up off the floor and in a tidy place. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to weld 2 more of those bars in the top of the box frame, kind of about that far apart from each other, so that I can also hold my hammers in place there too, so that those are also out of the way. Then I have some little casters here. I'm going to go ahead and tack weld those onto the bottom of the box, just so that it's nice and movable if I need to move it. And then finally I'm going to forge some hinges, and I'm going to screw this piece of metal roofing to those hinges and kind of attach that to the top of my tongs rack, so that if when I go inside for the day, I can put all my tongs back on my hammers and then close the lid, and it'll be nice and waterproof, so I can have it out there by the anvil without having to worry about all of my tools getting too rusty. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. I don't want to damage my camera, so I'm actually not going to show you guys the welding. That's why I haven't shown you guys the welding before. Some cameras, the welding actually damages the camera lens. So I'm going to give you guys updates as I go along, and then obviously when I forge the hinges, I'm definitely going to be showing you guys that as well. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and welded the bottom base for my box here. I'm going to go ahead and weld the second box, and then I'm going to have to weld the uprights, kind of like this. I think I'm going to weld them inside the corners like that. And then I can assemble the whole box together and tack the wheels on. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and weld the actual cross braces to hold the tongs and the hammers in it. At which point it will be functional, but then I have to make the hinges still. So I've gone ahead and welded this second box together. I'm going to start welding my supports in the corners like this. Once I have the box together, I will give you guys another update. So as you can see, I've got this box welded here. I'm going to go ahead and tack on those casters onto each of these corners. And then I'm going to weld on the remaining pieces for the actual tong rack itself. And then I'm going to get to work on the hinges. So as you can see, I've got the rack functional. Again, it's on those casters, so I can move it around at will, but it's got plenty of room for all my hammers and all my tongs. I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. I'm going to go ahead and start forming the hinges, which I'm going to do similarly to, for instance, this pair of tongs. The difference being I'm not going to isolate this material here. Instead, I'm going to just leave it flat and kind of circular, so that I can then put one hinge on each of these 2 back corners here. And then I'm going to have to put some posts up here that are taller than my tongs, but less tall than these hinges, so it slants so that the water runs off instead of just puddling on the roofing. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I have a piece of 1/2-inch round stock here, and I think for these hinges I'm just going to go ahead and flatten this down. Instead of doing what I would normally do to make tongs, I'm just going to flatten this and kind of make it circular on the end here. Instead of isolating material, doing all kinds of complicated stuff that I don't need to do, I can just, form this into a rough circle and then cut it off at a good distance, probably down there somewhere. And then I'll just line the two flat sides up with holes drilled in them for a rivet to make each hinge. I don't think I have to do any, complicated sizing or, isolation, anything like that. I'm just gonna keep it simple for this one. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off and get the second piece of this hinge started. It's gonna be much shorter. It's gonna have both ends looking similar to this because I need to have holes for sheet metal drilled, sheet metal screws drilled in it so I can secure the roof to it. But for this piece, this is gonna be for the back end of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off. So as you can see here, I've got the two pieces of the first hinge created. I'm going to drill holes in it, and then the hinge will move something like this with holes for sheet metal screws drilled in this part, and with this base here that I'm holding with the tongs welded to the actual structure of the tong rack itself. So as you can see, I have the hinge riveted. I'm just going to go ahead and loosen it up just a little bit here by just twisting it around like so. We'll do one more heat of unbending just to make sure. Looks good. So I've got this first hinge here done. It looks pretty good. I'm going to make another one just so I have two of them. And then once that's done, I'm going to weld them to my setup there, my little tongs rack. I will go ahead and drill holes in these two hinges once they're done, and then get the roof fashioned on, and that should be it for the tongs rack. So I have both of these hinges forged. I'm going to go ahead and drill, I think, just one hole each on these for the sheet metal screws for the roofing. And then I'm going to cut that piece of roofing to size. I'm going to weld these up and put the lid on. So, new plan. I didn't have any sheet metal screws, although I thought I did, but I did have these small bolts and nuts, so I'm going to be using these to secure the roof piece to the hinges. So, here's the final product. I ended up welding this bar on here because the actual roof piece, when it was laying flat, was drooping over, and so I think it would be not nearly as effective as if I had this bar here to stabilize it. As you can also see, I only ended up using one hinge because they weren't both exactly aligned so that it opened and closed straight, so I had to end up using one. And I had an issue when I first tried to secure it where the bolt actually pulled through this first top layer here. So what I did instead was I got 3 layers of the roofing and secured them all together with the same bolt. But here's how it actually works. So you have to lift the hinge up halfway like this, and then you twist the roofing around like that along the bolt, and then the lid goes on. So yeah, there it is. I'm really happy with it. I think it'll be a very good addition to my shop, and I'm very glad that I have a place to store all of my tools that I use out at the anvil regularly that's not inside the shop, because it was kind of annoying to walk back and forth to get hammers and tongs and that sort of thing. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, a comment, and please subscribe, and share it with anybody you think may be interested. It really does help me out. I hope to see you all in the next one.